All right, everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. Glad to see several of y'all here with us for the IFC fraternity live Q&A here with Samford Greek Life. I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Luis Aponte, and I serve Samford as the Assistant Director at Greek Life, and I primarily advise the IFC Council. If you don't know what IFC is, it's the governing council of the 5 IFC fraternities on campus. It's a group that oversees and guides the chapters in all their operations. I've got a couple guys with me here joining us on the call that are current Samford students and current Samford fraternity members as well. I know it's a bummer that y'all couldn't do Bulldog Days orientation on campus and we couldn't meet you in person, so I thought it'd be great just for you guys to hear from a couple of current chapter members to hear from their experiences. Since I can give you information all day, but I'm not experiencing Samford Greek Life as a student like they are. So if I'm going to pass it on to them to for them to tell you all a little about themselves. So Lance, if you'll kick us off and introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. Hey guys, glad you could make it. I'm Lance Ribka. I am a junior accounting major from Akron, Ohio, and I serve on the IFC Council as the Vice President of Programming. So essentially, I just plan all of the events for IFC, or I help to. I'll hand it to Tanner.
Sounds good. What's up, guys? My name is Tanner Fields. I'm going to be a rising junior as well, alongside Lance. I am from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and I serve as the Vice President of Public Relations, and I'm a finance and marketing major in the business school as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So just wanted to familiarize you guys with our speakers today. We are going to jump in and obviously we'll get to some logistics about recruitment. I know a lot of you guys are wondering, are things changing with obviously health and safety concerns with our current state right now? So we will go over some of the logistics and those kind of interesting announcements with recruitment. But first, we want to just kind of give you guys a little overview of our community and talk about just the experiences that these two guys have had as members, just so you can see what you might have looked forward to as a student yourself and what opportunities you might have as well. So as we go, please feel free to throw in questions into the chat box and we'll be happy to answer those at the very end. So we'll start with a little bit of Q&A with these guys, with Tanner and Lance. Throw in questions into the box as you think of them over the time at the very end. After I hit some of the recruitment logistics information, we'll answer those questions too. All right. So we will kick it off with a question for Tanner. Let's have you answer this one first. So what made you decide to want to join a fraternity at Samford?
Yeah. So I came in pretty much knowing nothing about fraternity life, Greek life in general. And it was kind of this sort of overwhelming culture. Like you get to Samford and, there's kids running around like, I'm going to join this. My parents did this. My friends did this. My siblings that went here did this. And I mean, Samford has so many great things to offer, but something so reoccurring was Greek life. And, I was like, hey, I don't know much about this, but I'll give it a shot. My parents didn't go to Samford, didn't have any siblings there. So for me, it was really kind of a blind process. But really that made it all the much better. And just going through those stages of pre-rush and pre-recruitment and learning more about the chapters was something that I kind of fell in love with. It can be intimidating, but once you kind of put yourself out there, it's really just about meeting people and, just finding out who you are and who you want to be. So that's really what hit me freshman year. I know everyone has kind of a different story, but that was something that I really wanted to get involved with, and Greek life's a great way to do so.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, Lance, what about you? What made you decide to want to join a fraternity?
Like Tanner, I came in and I had really never had any experience with Greek life before. I didn't know anybody who did it, but I only knew one person on the whole Samford campus before I came. So I kind of decided to rush just as a way to meet people. And a lot of my closest friends I met through the rush process. And then I met a lot of older guys through that. And eventually, once that started going and I really liked it, met some great guys, I decided I wanted to actually join a fraternity.
Awesome. Well, Lance, going off of that, will you tell us a little bit about your recruitment experience, maybe just some highlights from it, just things that stood out to you that are memorable?
Yeah, for sure. So at first, especially in pre-rush, it's a little nerve-wracking because you're putting yourself out there and you're thinking, are these guys going to like me or are they not? But the biggest thing you realize is that they're all normal guys just like you, and they genuinely want to get to know you. And the best piece of, I guess, the thing that helped the most is just asking them questions about themselves, and then you can find common ground. And you also make friends with not only the older guys, but the guys that are rushing with you and are your age, and you're walking around going to all the different pre-rush events. And that was a really great experience. And it starts out just shallow, but as the time goes on like the last night, you're having deep conversations with guys and you're really getting to know them on another level. And that's a really special part about Greek life at Samford.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good word. What about you, Tanner? What are some experiences you had during recruitment that stood out to you?
Yeah, kind of channeling off what Lance said there. And like I said before, kind of came in knowing nothing about it. So as those first couple of weeks of classes progress, you're approached by so many different older guys that are like, hey, like we're having this going on, like you see on different social media accounts, just different events to go to. And those are really, like Lance said, where you meet people. And once you even go to one or two, you don't even have to go to all of them. That's really where you start to kind of break out of that shell. And then kind of diving more into the kind of formal recruitment process, if you will. Just so many great memories that you take from it, even if it's little things as like free food and like Chick-fil-A spreads when you walk into, like the Pete Hanna suite or, X, Y, and Z's fraternity house. Things like that, getting to dress up, wear some nicer clothes, meeting people through that as well. All really good memories that you can take from it, that kind of build up that experience. And like I said, it's going to be different for everyone. But if you can even take some of those little pieces like free food or dressing up or, talking about something that you did in high school that someone else did as well, is really how you start to, build into a better version of yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about once you're in the fraternity and you're joined, you go through the new member process. You both have been in your chapters for about 2 years now, so or even more. So what have you gained since being a member? Lance, to start with you. Anything you've gained in membership?
A lot of things. Definitely leadership experience, the ability to serve on IFC and also through my chapter. And that's something that I would never have had otherwise. Another thing that's probably the best part is you have 50 to 100 close friends as soon as you're in a fraternity, and you see them all around campus. There's always someone who wants to do something, so you never feel alone. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to regardless. And then there's the added perk. A lot of times fraternities do stuff with sororities, so it's a great way to just meet a lot of girls, which isn't a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all. There you go. Good word. Thanks, man. What about you, Tanner? What are some things you've gained in membership?
Yeah, really, really good points there. Kind of all across the board. For me, it was definitely a deeper understanding of my faith, and that was huge for me. Samford is a great place for that, but also to find a different kind of angle or perspective of your faith can be found in your brothers once you join a fraternity. And for me, that was super apparent. But other things like Lance said, like this position that I have in IFC now wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be on this call if I didn't, join a fraternity. And you just start to see kind of how those things work in spades for your whole college experience. And then lastly, definitely we're there for school and academics. And my internship this summer came from one of my closest brothers and roommates in my fraternity. And it was kind of a mutual connection, and was able to network with his father and gain the internship that I had this summer. So things like that you wouldn't really expect go many miles once you kind of tap into the experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. You really do gain a ton of connections. You never know what you can get out of it. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, guys. All right, one last question for you each before we jump into some more logistical items. If you had one piece of advice to give these freshman men coming to Samford for the first time, interested in fraternity life, what piece of advice would you give them to leave them with? Lance, you can go first.
I actually have two. One for before rush and one when you're actually rushing. So sometimes guys will get to campus and they'll have one fraternity in mind that they want to go to, and then they'll kind of ignore the rest. I would advise against that. I would just go in with an open mind, because a lot of times you'll be surprised and you don't want to close yourself off from something that could potentially be great at the beginning. And then when you're in rush, it's really good to remember guys' names that you met. Even if you, right after you talk with them, if you just type it in their phone and a little description of what they look like, that'll go a long way when you see them again and you remember their name.
Hey, good word. Use your resources like iPhone notes. It's huge.
Absolutely.
You do meet a lot of people, so it's easy to forget. Awesome. All right, Tanner, what about you? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, 100%. I would go kind of parallel with what Lance said. And I would say don't box yourself in, and don't box in the way you see other people. It's super easy to get to Samford, and even if it's aside from Greek life, whether you're walking around in your res hall or in the CAF, and you see someone and they have a certain depiction, whether it's like an athlete, for example, and it's easy to be like, oh, that guy's an athlete. But the same is, for the recruitment process and just like your college experience in general. Don't come in with kind of a closed mindset or personality on who you were in high school, and also don't think that's all you're limited to. Just because you played this sport or you were in this club or played this instrument in high school, don't think that you can't do different things. And when you see other guys trying out new things, go and join them, because it'll really push you out of your comfort zone for sure.
That's a great piece of advice. Appreciate y'all both. Awesome. I'm glad that we have y'all both here to share. I'll have y'all stick around just in case we have any questions. So for the rest of you guys, if you have any questions, like I said earlier, please feel free to type those into the chat and we'll be happy to get to those. And if you think of anything as I talk as well, we can get to those at the end. But for now, I'm sure you're probably wondering, what does recruitment look like this fall as we're entering a semester where a lot of things are, there's a lot of uncertainty as we prioritize the safety and health of all students. We obviously want you guys to be safe and healthy as you guys come onto campus. We want you guys to maintain the priority of classes and aiming towards your degree, but obviously there's a lot more to your college experience than just going to class. That's priority. Academics are number one. We also want you to have an experience where you can enhance that with leadership and growing spiritually, growing in leadership, finding connections with people and growing in brotherhood. And a fraternity is the right way to do that. So with recruitment, things will look a little different this year than have in years past because of regulations, restrictions that we have for your health and safety. One of those being, we will kind of have a hybrid version of recruitment. So we will kick things off this year with a virtual open house. So every year we have what's called Fraternity 101. We're still going to do that, but just not in person, because it's just not the smartest thing to put over 150 men into the same room at this time. So we're going to have that in a virtual context this year instead, kind of a webinar version of Zoom, where you'll get to hear from our recruitment team on IFC. You'll get to hear from me and from Josh, who's the VP of Recruitment and Membership. And you'll just learn some logistics about recruitment, how it works here at Samford, what the chapters have to offer, and what the week look like for you. And that'll be September 1st. So you can save the date for that. And after that, you'll get to actually meet all 5 of the IFC chapters. We have Alpha Tau Omega, Lambda Chi Alpha, Pi Kappa Phi, Sigma Chi, and Sigma Nu. Those 5 recruitment teams from those 5 chapters will introduce themselves to you guys, tell you a little about their chapter, their values, who they are as a group, and then also share what events they'll be hosting individually as a chapter as well. Because the next step of that is you'll meet with Euro Alpha. After that, virtually. You'll be broken up into small groups on Zoom. Rho Alphas just are recruitment advisors. Those are older fraternity men who are taking their time to help you through your process of joining a chapter as you aim to be a new member of one of the fraternities. So they're a friend, a mentor, a counselor, just someone who's kind of taking you along with them. They're there to, give you advice. They're there to remind you of logistics and announcements or things you might need to know. And they're there just to be a helping hand and a listening ear as you go through the process. So those guys will kind of keep you in check and be in touch with you just to make sure you're never confused or left behind. And you will get to be connected to the chapters by they're all going to create kind of a calendar list of events that they're going to host on campus throughout the next couple of weeks. So this is what's different, is that the events will be a lot more informal. And what that means is, instead of having formalized windows of times you're going to go to each fraternity house or each place on campus, since we can't host as many things on campus with limitations on capacity codes and we have to have smaller groups, we'll have informal events where groups can be smaller and you can do just, more everyday type of things, like go out, go to the caf to eat together, have a game night, maybe like a casino night. You can, play pickup basketball or pickup soccer, have a little cookout, grill out, things like that, play some cornhole or other tailgate games. It'll just be a lot more informal events where you'll get to know each other in a more smaller group capacity. And throughout that time, chapters will be allowed to give out bids starting September 14th. So as you get to know men in all 5 chapters and visit all 5 at their informal events, you may gain a bid to membership, and then you can decide to accept that or not until the 21st, which is formal bid day. And we're also going to try our best to host a couple of formal events as well the weekend before bid day, which is September 19th and 20th. We will have a chapters host some more formal invite-only events where you'll learn more about the chapters as well in a more formal setting. So one question we did have before was, how do you find out about these events that are going on? That's a great question. There's a few different answers to that. First and foremost is make sure to register for recruitment. Registering for recruitment gets you a t-shirt. It gets you in on the chapter contact information, them being able to reach out to you being able to reach out to them, and also you being connected to us as IFC as a resource as well. So when you register for recruitment, your name's in our database. We're able to reach out to you with any information that we may have, and you'll get updates as things may change, because they very well could change over time as we receive new updates every day about just the status of campus life with COVID-19 in place as well. So like I said earlier, all 5 chapters will be creating calendars of their informal events. You'll get access to that once you register for recruitment. So you'll have that email to you. Your alpha will send it to you in GroupMe or via text. Another great thing to do is to follow Samford IFC on Instagram. If you have an Instagram account, make sure to follow at Samford IFC for the most up-to-date information and updates. And also all 5 chapters have Instagram accounts as well. So I would just search those and you can find out their events as they announce those on those portals as well. So that's the main piece of information I have for you guys when it comes to recruitment. We're not sure entirely if things could change. They very well could. But as of now, I think just go into it with the approach like Lance and Tanner said, having an open mind, get excited to meet guys. And don't worry, because IFC, myself as Greek Life staff, and your alphas will be there to help you out every step of the way. So let me check out the questions. I know we got one right now.
Yeah, Luis, I can actually answer this if you want
me to. Yeah, go. I'd love for you to. Please do.
Yeah, so we have a question from Jared. It just basically says that his roommate and him they're looking forward to Rush, but they're both transfer students. So for the rest of you out there, if you're not a transfer student, a little different, but the concept still kind of applies. So they're both going to be incoming sophomores. And Jared's asking, how's that going to affect his recruitment process? I'd say definitely look at this from the plus side, that this is a huge advantage for you and your roommate, because not only is there nothing wrong with being an older guy going through recruitment. We have plenty go through each year, sophomores and juniors, even sometimes seniors. But not only that, but obviously Samford's going to be a little new to you, but you already have a year under your belt from just a college experience in general. So you know a little bit more on how college works. So that's one less thing to worry about. And then recruitment is entirely up to what you make it from there. So definitely don't feel overwhelmed by that at all.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Awesome. We got one more question from Wesley. So what kind of things do you do when you're in a fraternity? That's a good question. Lance and Tanner, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. A big one for us is it gives you teams to play on in intramural sports. Tanner and my fraternity compete very heavily against each other, especially in football. And so that's a great one. You've got it. Most fraternities, it's informal, but they have a table in the cafeteria. And so you'll walk in and you'll look at the table and you'll see a bunch of guys in your fraternity. And then essentially it's just like a group of friends that you have, but it's about four years apart in age. So you have older guys that have been through what you're going through. So a lot of times you'll go to them if you're having a rough time, and they'll just give you advice and they'll help you get through it. I go to church with a lot of my fraternity brothers, and I have since freshman year, and it's a really great experience and a great resource to have.
Definitely. What would you add to that, Tanner?
Yeah, for sure. Sort of like Lance said, I mean, there's things as simple as, eating with each other in the caf to sports teams, Bible studies, getting involved in other things, going to Samford athletic games, eating out, exploring Birmingham, finding a church together, all sorts of things that kind of take to a deeper level when you're in a fraternity. And then just things like attending your weekly chapter or, giving back in your philanthropy events, volunteering, going to class together, obviously. All those things, have a little deeper meaning when you have fraternity brothers alongside you. And a lot of it is just everyday stuff that just makes it that much better.
Yeah, those are great answers. You can definitely expect to get to participate in service events, philanthropy events, and social events. So there is a lot of structure and a lot of fun things that get to go on. But I think, at the end of the day, it's about the brotherhood and about those relationships within the connection. So that's a great answer. Thanks, guys. Another question we have from Andrew is, what is the normal pledge class size at Samford? I can answer this, and if you guys have anything to add on, please feel free. But with the fraternity community at Samford, one cool thing is that every chapter is different, and they all have different types of men in them, so you can really fit anywhere. But ultimately, they're not all the same size. So we usually say the average chapter size of the entire chapter fraternity at Samford is around 85 men, because some chapters are as low as on the end of 40 to 50 members. Some chapters have up to 110, 115 members. So they all vary in size. When it comes to pledge class sizes, those also vary. That usually can see anywhere from 10 to 15 up to 25 and 30. So that's kind of the usual norm. We all say that's about right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So it's cool where, you have plenty of people you can meet, but it's also intimate enough to where you get to know them pretty well. So yeah, it's pretty special. Yeah. Awesome. Do we have any other questions, guys? Feel free to keep asking. There's some really good ones so far. There's definitely a lot of great information out there on the internet as well. So we'll throw this out. Make sure, if you haven't already, to check out the Samford Greek Life website. It's what I meant to say. Just samford.edu/Greek Life. And there's tons of tabs on that webpage where you can look at finances if you're curious about the cost of Greek life at Samford. It's broken down per chapter, so you can kind of get an idea of how much dues are, as every Greek organization in the country costs money to join. You can see what Samford's costs are for these specific chapters that we have on our campus as well. That way you don't go in blind, having a good idea what you might expect to pay for dues. You can see information about our chapters, what recruitment looks like, and just other up-to-date information. And also our email address is on there if you want to contact us. And that's just greeklife@samford.edu. We check out email often and are happy to connect with you that way as well if you have more questions that you didn't think of until after this call. And like I mentioned earlier too, make sure to follow us on social media. If you do happen to have an Instagram account, make sure to follow @Samford IFC and also @Samford Greeks. Then you can look for the fraternity accounts as well. They're all on there, and you can follow those to stay up to date with all 5 chapters too. So Yeah, Tanner and Lance, thanks for being here. Do you have any last final words you might want to say? Y'all have been super helpful so far.
I would just say when you get to Samford, I would just encourage you to rush. You don't have to have the idea that you're going to join one, but just rush, because that's a great experience in itself, and that way you leave the option open.
That's great. Yeah, that's good. You're not required to join a chapter if you do participate in recruitment. So it's a great thing to add. Just because you register or participate doesn't mean you are expected to accept a bid if you do receive one. So that's great. And that leads me to the one last thing. If you have not registered, you can definitely do that, and we encourage you to do that as well. A few different ways to find that is on our website. Like I mentioned before, if you click the Join a Chapter tab, you'll find the link there. And also Instagram, our accounts with that in the bio. So you click the bio on at Samford Greeks or at Samford IFC and find the link there as well. So it's super easy to find either way, and you can get that done pretty quickly. Awesome. Well, if we have no other questions, we thank you all once again for joining and are happy to connect and can't wait to meet you guys on campus just here in a couple of weeks. Feel free to reach out via email, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, Luis.
Awesome. Thanks, Luis. Thanks, guys.